Hey, it's Jeremy. I'm Jeremy.net. I am a comic book artist. You on the internet every week. If you enjoy these videos, if you would like to get bonus live streams, I do a bonus live stream every month. If you'd like to get additional behind the scenes blog posts, animated GIFs, and see even more of how I write and draw and create, you can support this channel and subscribe for that extra content at Patreon. Patreon.com/GERIMI. Patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to read some of my comic books, see what the content is that I'm creating, you can go and download some free PDFs of my comics at comics.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to purchase of my comic books, physical copies, or if you want to read them on Amazon Kindle, Comixology, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. That will forward you to my Amazon store. So, I'm doing this live stream a day early because I have some plans with the family on Sunday. So it's going to be business as usual, just one day early. For those of you who were expecting me on Sunday and you're watching this in the past, I tried to post on all of social media and let you guys know ahead of time that I was going to be online Saturday. I apologize if you missed it, but hopefully you will enjoy the stream in the replay. So, here we go. I am continuing with the live streams for Morningstar issue 8, the final issue of my series. It's Lucifer's Fall from Heaven, told as a western, and basically I just go through my haha. I see my boy Ion Rox is in the chat. He says he didn't miss it. Of course, man. You're Johnny on the spot. I'm glad you're here. So we are continuing with the not only are we continuing, we are down to basically I'm on page, let me see, the last page that I thumbnailed here is page 20. So I am down to it's a 40 page issue. So it's normally my issues are 24 pages. This one is almost double sized. But this last half of the issue is just all the final. This is literally the climax of the book. It's all fight scenes and the final battle between Lucifer and Michael here. So that's all we're thumbnailing up. This, well, a little bit of aftermath. And we're probably from, if previous live streams are any indication, I'm probably only going to get maybe one page thumbnailed out, but I'll be here to answer questions as I'm drawing. I see we've got LV McD in the chat, and he says we got it, the alert on YouTube. I am glad to see that. I'm glad the those notifications are working and helping. I'm gonna try and adjust the camera so that it's at a height where it's not in my way, but you can get a full view of my my drawing table as I'm working here. So let me just tweak this a little bit. LV McD is like Lucifer and Michael, always fighting. Yeah, they're like Tom and Jerry, man. They're just getting into it like cats and dogs. I know Tom and Jerry is cat and a mouse, but that's beside the point. Before I start drawing, the one thing I want to do, this page is mostly text because I'm working out some of the dialogue for this for page 20, and as you can see, this stack is all of my thumbnails just for this issue up to page 20. It's just like page after page of like, I indicate at the bottom, I always put the issue that I'm on and what pages are on these thumbnails, because as I draw them, it's a pretty messy process to keep track of where I am and what's going on, and sometimes it takes me multiple pages, multiple sheets of paper to work through what I want on a particular page or in a particular scene. So I always, when I get to the end of a page, I like to put a little notation at the bottom with just issue and page. So I'm going to put that on here real quick. That's something I should have when I finished last night when I was working, but just put that on here real quick. This is page 20. All right, so we'll put that to the side. Let me grab a fresh sheet. LB McD says they should go to the club more often in the comic realm. I presume we're talking Lucifer and Michael still. Travis is in the chat, says, "What's up? How you doing, man? What's up?" Here, getting my my thumbnail on, and grab my handy dandy little thumbnail cards, just little stacks that have images indicating what's supposed to be the main action that's happening on any particular page. And I'm going to reach into my art bag and grab the rest of these cards, because I realize at this point I may need to just see. I want to make sure I know what's coming on the next page, so I know what I'm transitioning into. For me, when I'm thumbnailing, a lot of this process is it's basically building connective tissue. Obviously, I mean, some people maybe can see the entire story in their head from start to finish. But for me, I tend to see just bits and pieces. I see like the cool shots, the cool images that I want to happen in a particular scene. But then I have to kind of fill in the gaps mentally, and that's what a lot of the thumbnailing about is how to move from cool moment to cool moment. And I think there's I can't remember if it's Elmore Leonard or James Ellroy, but one of them had mentioned a quote about writing a story. One of their rules is just leave out the boring parts. I think it might be Elmore Leonard, because I think there was a famous, I don't know if it was an essay article, but it was like 10 rules for writing. So yeah, I want to say it's Elmore Leonard. So let's see. Oh, more folks in the chat. Art with Amar is in the chat. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in, saying hi to everybody else. LV McD says that would be funny. Send Superman and the gang to the strip club, and they encounter a new master villain that has strippers hypnotizing them to kill people. Yeah, maybe it's Brainiac. Sounds like the kind of thing he would do. Personally, I'd like to think that that a supervillain's master plan could revolve around something a little bit more important than a strip club. Besides, Batman might go, but Superman seems a bit too shy for the strip club. I don't really think that's his thing. Batman and Green Arrow could do that action. Superman and Flash maybe go golfing or something, you know? Sport of Kings. Maybe that's horse racing. I can never remember. All right. So at this point, right before, on the page before this, Michael basically got thrown through a wall. He got shot out of the sky by Lucifer and a bunch of fire-breathing demons. He meets up with Gabrielle, borrows a gun, and he's like, all right, now I need to get down to business. So what I wanted to do, and I'm not sure how many panels are even going to be in this page, but I know that it's going to be going from Michael. The two notes that I make here is that I want Michael to end with a sword. So the one thing is Michael walking out of flames, and then he walks past a corpse of a demon that has a sword stuck in it, and then he pulls the sword out of that demon. So let's see here. Here's a little thumbnail. Basically, I'm just redrawing another version of this thumbnail. And to be honest, I don't even like the way I'm drawing this right here. I'm gonna redraw it again already. I can tell you because I don't like the posture that I had there with him kind of leaning back a little bit while shooting. I think feels much more like what I want. I got it better in the first thumbnail. I think I just changed it because I wanted it to look like he was definitely shooting with his right hand as opposed to his left. And it's a subtle thing because whenever I need a character to shoot with their non-dominant hand, it really, well, more often than not, the main thing is that I try to indicate that while Lucifer is ambidextrous and fires with both hands, and a lot of them are ambidextrous and fire with both hands, for the most part, Lucifer is left-handed, Michael is right-handed. Just sort of like that whole idea of the left hand being sort of the I don't want to say the hand of evil, because that's like implying that all left-handed people are evil, which they are not. Most left-handed people I know, let me put it this way, almost all the left-handed people I know are artists. I'm sure there are some non-artistic left-handed people, but most of the people I know who are left-handed tend to be very creative and draw better than a lot of right-handed people. Notice I'm right-handed. I'm giving them props. But I am sort of trying to keep that idea. But the main thing is that the way that I just drew this little thumbnail right here, it doesn't give the sense of the forward momentum into the scene that I want. So I think I'm gonna reconfigure this again. And again, these are just stick figures to kind of get a sense of where I'm going. Let's see, let me pop back up to the chat. Let's see, more talk about Batman and Superman at the strip club. Amar asks, did I ever get the choke slam figure out for the shot I was working on 2 or 3 weeks ago? Choke slam pose, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Hopefully it is back. I don't see it moving on my screen, but on my end it looks like it's streaming again. So I don't know why oh crap. It's all right, good. On my end, my connection's just been really, really bad over the past few weeks. I don't know what's going on. I'm actually going off of my my cellular connection because usually my Wi-Fi is spotty, but now even the cellular connection has been crappy too. All right, I see everyone letting me know we're back in business. Hopefully this will not be happening much throughout the stream. If it does, bear with me. I appreciate your patience. So I think what I ended up doing, the question about the choking was that I've got I had Uriel, who's sort of this very big, strong archangel who's been turned to Lucifer's side, and it's really hard to see what's happening here in this sketch, in this thumbnail. But he's basically just mashing Michael's face into the ground. And the change that I decided to do was, instead of having kind of a Lucifer, like Michael doing some sort of interesting choke hold or choke body slamming him, I decided it was just really, really simple. I just have him, where's the shot? I have some thumbnail in here where I show exactly what he does. Is it on the page before? Well, basically, he just elbows him in the throat. That's what it comes down to. Just gives him an elbow in the throat and knocks him off. Like, this drawing, you can't really tell what's going on in there, but this is what's supposed to be happening. A hand coming from above, holding this guy's face. It only seems like half of the face because he's pressing his face into the ground. And somewhere in this stack, maybe I just moved the one that I thought worked best to the front. But anyway, here we go. So I even put a note to myself, elbow to the throat. So Michael elbows Uriel to the throat to get him off of him. Instead of doing kind of a choke slam thing, he just turns around. Now that he's off of him, he turns around, punches him. Then he goes in for another punch, And what happens is Uriel catches the other punch and then grabs him and lifts him up in the air, which I think is represented. Where is that represented? You can see how many pages I did just working out this one page of a physical interaction. Anyway, it ends with Uriel holding Michael up in the air after he catches that punch. And at that point, we cut to basically him getting an axe to the head from behind by another one of the archangels, Ariel, who had also joined Lucifer's side. But she is now sort of turning back, almost like the like Palpatine in Return of the Jedi, where she's gone to the dark side. No, not Palpatine. Anakin. Well, Darth Vader. You know, when he turns on Palpatine at the end, she sort of realized that she has created a whole horrible mess in heaven. She turns around and attacks. Let's see here. Coming back to the chat. Yeah, and Amara says, there you go again. I bet you're using Wi-Fi. Lost it again. Yeah, I'm not on the Wi-Fi. I'm using my cellular connection. And I have found in the past that my Wi-Fi connection, when I live stream off of that, it's even worse than when I'm using the cellular connection. And this is the first time I've had this level of problems with the cellular connection. And I can even see, I'm looking at the stream now, because I have it on my tablet above so I can see the chat. I can see that it keeps freezing and stopping. It's freezing and stopping. I'm sorry for that. I don't know if it's still playing the audio while the visual freezes because I have it muted. But, oh God. Maybe what I really need to do is figure out how to get my Wi-Fi fixed so that the connection is better there, and then I can go back to streaming from Wi-Fi instead. But regardless, I'm sorry for the poor quality. But anyway. Amar says, were you able to complete that panel? Well, yeah, I mean, it was pretty much done as far as I worked out all the details that I wanted visually. So instead of getting body slammed and choked, it's more of Uriel knocks Michael out of the sky and just not choking him, but just smashing his face into the ground. And then Michael fighting back, hitting him in the throat, so on and so forth. So yeah, I worked out the main details of that. And the main thing is more of I'm probably going to go through with little figures, and I'm going to take photo reference of figures posed so that I can get the shots exactly the way I want them. The main thing for this is I want to know what the action is that I'm going to be performing in the scene. And the reason for doing so many thumbnails and really detailing out what I want to happen in a scene is because I don't want to go to my actual pencils and then realize, oh wait, I did not communicate all the things that need to happen in this scene story-wise. To find out that I need an extra panel for the page to make sense. For me, that's the point of thumbnailing, is to work out all of these story beats. And it seems like I'm doing a ridiculous amount of work, but I have found that the more thumbnailing I do up front, the easier it is for me when I'm on the actual finished page to just draw and draw and draw and not have to figure out and lay out the page. If anything, once I've moved on to pencils and inks, it's much more of a pain in the ass to go back and change what's happening in a scene. So I would much rather, spend extra half hour or even an extra, several hours thumbnailing out a page or a scene to really feel like I am certain that this is what I want, or as certain as I can get. Because even at the stage of having thumbnails worked out, I've definitely gone back and changed a page. Sometimes I have to look at a page for days and days and weeks before I realize, oh wait, I had my thumbnails wrong. This is the actual story beat that works here. So I try to both do groundwork so that I have a very concrete plan of what I want, but also just stay open enough that if I move pretty far down the path, but I find a better solution, I try to stay open to those alternate solutions, even if I really did think I had the page figured out. So back to the chat. LV McD says, do you ever get stumped in developing areas of your stories? And Amir, well, I'll come back to Amir's question because or his thought, because this question might take a little bit of a, I might take a little bit of a ramble. Yes, I very much get stumped. For instance, I feel like I know what all the story beats are in this particular page, but that said, you know, you can see most of this page is me writing down various versions of dialogue. I'm still not happy with the dialogue on this page, but I think I have enough pieces of dialogue that I can go to my lettering pass, and when I letter a comic book page, that becomes a rewrite. That said, when I rewriting it, I may come up with a line that may make me want to change the order of these pictures, or make me want to change one of the panels. So the writing process, again, this is one of the reasons why I'm a writer-artist. It's too hard for me to separate the writing from the drawing. For me, they're mushed together. That isn't true of everybody. There's lots of artists who just get a script from their writer, they draw what's written. If they see something that they think works better, then hopefully they have a good relationship with their writer or their editor and can just say, hey, can I break this panel, I rearrange this scene so that the beat that you wanted it here will actually get moved to the next page, or, you know, whatever the visual changes are to make the storytelling more exciting. Hopefully it's not they just change it, but that they have an open relationship where they can discuss what they want to change and why, and then maybe the writer comes back and says, that's great, that's better than I imagined, go for it, or that change will mess up something I had set later down. Is there a way that we can do what you want while still keeping this beat? You know, and it's a fluid process. That's what you would hope. But for me, I just go back and forth changing stuff. The writing, the penciling, the inking. It's all one ongoing work of progress until the book is done. But when you ask about me being stumped, for instance, hell, I can just go back one page before this. On page 19, all I was starting from, besides my script outline, is, so I have this big stack where I did just thumbnails of what I wanted, of one image per page. And all I had on page 19 was this picture, and it's Gabrielle. Was talking to some other archangels, helping them escape from demons. And then you just see a fireball come smashing into the ground from a building behind her. In that fireball is the actual figure. Like it would be larger, obviously, because it'd be a finished comic page, but you would see the silhouette of Michael getting thrown through the side of that building. So I started thinking about, well, what do I want going on this page when Gabrielle gets surprised? So when you talk about getting stumped, for me, getting stumped is just exploring all these different possibilities. So I started with this thing where I wanted to maybe build up the sense that Gabrielle is busy leading the armies of heaven since Michael's been MIA. He left with Lucifer when Lucifer kind of left heaven. And for all Gabrielle knows, you know, he's joined him. But really, Michael was going because his plan was to try and bring Lucifer back. You know, he thought, he's my brother, he's my best friend. If anyone can convince him to turn away from this path, it's me. Shit didn't work out that way. But anyway, so I had stuff where I wanted Gabrielle to very much be heroic. So I had a part of her, an image of her shooting, while again, these are thumbnails roughly drawn, but she's dragging an archangel who's shot and bleeding. There's a couple more angels that are flanking her that are firing. And I was gonna basically try and work out a whole sequence when they were fighting off other demons and demon angel hybrids and rebel angels that were following Lucifer. And I tried starting with maybe this shot. I did some other thumbnails here where I wasn't sure how much space this image of Gabriel being surprised was going to take up. So I thought maybe what's going on is just going to be on the top tier. I tried sketching these little thumbnails of a couple of angels running and Gabrielle, I guess, standing in the background shouting orders. So I think it was more like she's covering their escape to get them away from danger, but wanted to feel heroic. Then I just did some thumbnails saying, well, what is this scene going to look like? Maybe figuring out what part of the street they're going to be in will help me figure out how to compose this image. And knowing that this building, this vertical set of stripes here is going to represent the building that Michael's going to come crashing through, it's almost like me working out the staging for this. So it's a very simple landscape thumbnail, but me trying to set the stage in order to figure out the composition. And I thought, well, maybe to start with having them looking, these are all different ideas I was working my way through because I was stumped. I didn't know exactly how I was going to get to that shot, that thumbnail I was showing you of Michael getting smashed through the walls. But also with this page, you can see me just working out various grids. And I'm not even sure what's going to go in these grids yet, but just me trying to figure out, well, how many panels do I have to play with in this? How much story is there to tell? And, you know, what kind of establishing shot do I need? And I realized I was sketching out a lot of stuff that in the end, I didn't necessarily need. And I kind of came down to, all right, the composition that I had for this shot, I really liked. And since it was designed as, when I sketched it out, it was one large page, I thought, all right, let me bring it down to maybe a page in terms of how much space it takes up. So then having a tier at the top and a long strip. And I played with, you know, maybe sometimes flipping the direction of the action. So instead of having the Michael come fireballing in from the right, maybe have him come fireballing in from the left. But then I just thought, what's happening right before this shot? And then I came to the thought of, all right, instead of having Gabrielle carrying, this is the long answer to the question. Yes, I get stumped. And when I get stumped, what I do is I just draw. I draw my way through my answers. Because staring at a blank piece of page, or if you're typing up your script and staring at a blank cursor, that can be frustrating. It's not fun. Drawing, even when you're having a hard time drawing what you want, drawings, for the most part, for me, is fun. So even if I don't know where the story's going, that's why you see, for instance, on this page, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different shots of the same image, which is 2 men carrying another wounded angel, and then this figure that's in the background is going to be Gabrielle, basically telling them to, you know, to get out, to get away. Actually, I realized there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a 5th one over here, and this 5th one is closest to what I wanted, which was, well, actually down here, this one is the final image that I worked out for what's going on. Instead of trying to draw 1, 2, 3 panels and then some other panel leading up to this, I realized I could communicate all of what I wanted in one shot that goes across the top tier. So the idea here is Gabrielle is in the background shooting. She's shooting. You can't see who she's shooting at. We are missing part of the story. That isn't really what's important here. She's shooting and she's going to be shouting orders. I left space above her for a word balloon, while you've got these other 2 angels carrying the 3rd angel off. And I finally figured out that's how I want this panel to be organized visually, is that top tier of that scene of action, the scene of her getting surprised by Michael coming fireballing through that wall, and then you've got a couple of shots here. One shot is Michael laying on his back, smoldering. So it's just fire around him. The ground's kind of charred, but you know, he's a super powerful archangel now. You know, he's the preeminent archangel. He could survive that. You know, he can take a lot of damage now. He's grown to the point where he has the physical power kind of that the demons have. Like the demons, in the way I've written it in Morningstar up till now, the average demon would actually rip an angel apart. but the Archangels are the ones who are kind of like the Justice League. Well, I've promoted it as they're like the Magnificent Seven, but they are the ones who they could physically fight a demon and take them on. But now we've gotten bigger and more dangerous demons that are like giant sized, and they're strong enough to kill even the Archangels. Point being is that Michael could survive getting blasted by a fireball and coming through a wall. So the panel that comes after that is just Michael. You really can't tell what's going on in this shot. And I even did a couple of sketches to try and clarify just in silhouette. But the point is that it's Michael kind of starting to get up on his elbows with Remiel leaning down to see if he's okay. And what's funny is the one thing I'm proud of on this page is that I had written when Michael left heaven, he said like Gabrielle was shocked that Michael was walking away. And Michael says to her, I can bring him back. And Gabrielle kisses him and says, no, you can't. So in this part, the first thing they say, they've been gone, separated for a whole issue while Michael's gone through getting shot, thrown off a cliff, watching Lucifer murder Raphael. He's been through a lot of shit. And Gabrielle leans down to him. She says, I was wrong. We're back. Satisfied? Which I thought, considering the fact that, heaven is in flames, it was kind of a cute moment for me. So I'm pretty pleased with that. Let me get back to the chat because I see a bunch of comments here. I got sort of... All right. Sorry about that. Stream continues to be wonky. Apologies. I saw that the stream froze again. I put notations towards which panels are the ones that work that I want to use, but I keep all of these scraps because there might be when I'm doing my pencils, when I'm doing my inks, I'm like, oh, here's a detail that I can use. Or let's say that I get, it happens sometimes where I think I've worked everything out in my outline and my thumbnails and my pencils, and I'm inking a page and I look at it and I see something I didn't catch before. I found something wrong. It helps to have all of these alternate versions in a stack of pages beside me because I can come back to them, look at them, and say, oh, wait, here's something else I can use as a solution for that thing that I thought that was working, and it turns out that it's not. Amar says, that's the reason I would love to have my characters modeled, including the sets for the universe, all the shot planning. You know what's funny? I haven't really figured out a way to do it yet, but personally, I would really love to not do my character designs, my model sheets, until I actually have thumbnailed out the entire book. A lot of times, there's physical details of a character's costume, equipment that I want them to have, ways that they tend to stand, or things that would look cool on them that I don't realize until I'm actually doing the story, until I'm working out the scenes. Personally, I would love to do an entire thumbnail out an entire graphic novel and then go back into my model sheets because I don't really know what I need from the character until I visually watch them act and perform. It's almost like if you're doing a film, why not do your costume design after the actors do the walkthrough, because now I can see how they move in space. It does make more sense to design a model, stick to it so you know what you're going to do. But for me, visually, so much changes as for me, thumbnailing is like rehearsals for an actor. And as I workshop the scene and the story and get it up on its feet, that's what the thumbnailing is. As I do that, I realize things I want to tweak and change. There's a lot of times where I get halfway through an issue of it looks like the stream just froze again. Yeah. All right, it's moving again. I just saw it freeze and I was like, crap. Thanks for your patience, guys. I'm sorry that the stream has been so crappy lately in terms of the buffering. Amar says, if I didn't have to get work, I'd get most of that done in a good year, 2 max. I know the feeling. Iron Rock says, drawing your way through answers. I wish. That's what works for me. Vince Moore says, Pierce Anthony has a method for dealing. And hey, thanks for popping in, Vince. Good to see you. Pierce Anthony has a method for dealing with writer's block that entails simply writing in a different file within what he's writing about the block. He says he writes his way out of the block. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense to me. And in fact, I think I remember reading something about that because Piers Anthony, I haven't read everything he's read, but I read a ton of the Xanth novels and the Incarnations of Immortality books, and a few other series that he's done. He's I haven't read any of his stuff in a long time, but for a long time he was probably my favorite author. Yeah, that idea of just drawing my way through blocks as opposed to writing my way through blocks, but it's the same process. I don't have the answer. I just keep putting stuff down until I find something. Amar says I could then knock out book planning in 2 weeks. You know, it's funny. For me, my biggest problem remains the amount of time I actually have. Only having like 1 or 2 hours a day to actually work on a comic. Because in theory, if I were doing nothing else, I feel like I should be able to thumbnail out an entire 24-page comic in a weekend. I feel like that's a realistic possibility. If I were just spend 8 hours a day for 2 days on Sunday, that should be enough. I just rarely have, even on the weekends, I'm usually not able to get more than 2. If I'm able to get 3 hours a day of creative time in on Saturday or Sunday, that's a lot for me. I mean, really, you guys are seeing my chunk of creative time right now. You guys are spending a big chunk of it with me because my studio's a mess. I still have receipts that I have to file and some accounting I have to do for my most recent convention, putting convention supplies away and restocking stuff. I am so behind on so many other things, and I've been ignoring them because I said, let me just get the thumbnails done on Morningstar. But once I get the thumbnails done, I gotta roll right into lettering anyway. So I should probably at least get a little bit of that art life maintenance done and out of the way. Let's see what else here. Amar says I would be able to thumbnail or rough out a 24 regular book in a year. Iron Rock says demons aren't more powerful, bro. When talking about the demons getting larger than the angels, yeah, normally they aren't. I'm just writing them as more powerful in my version. Amar says it's crazy how many people use demons against angels. Well, it's a really iconic good versus evil. It's a real clear-cut, metaphor. It works. So I think that some things are so primal or so ingrained in culture and society that they go beyond being cliche. They're just, an angel and a demon are they're just symbols for good and evil. It's not even a cliche. It's an archetype. It gets back to that Joseph Campbell type archetypes. They're things that are very powerful symbols that get reused and reappear throughout storytelling. Amar also says, I'm using them as well, but there'll be more as background elements. My key characters are Lilith, Samael, and my main character, Snow. That's dope. I look forward to seeing that. Yeah, another comment about the stream freezing again. I'm glad that it's working, although I apologize again. I'm gonna try to stop apologizing for the bad quality of the stream. It's probably gonna freeze again 1 or 2 more times. It's the nature of the beast. Let's see. Amar also says, yeah, I do add the designs first, but I don't do all of the environments. I think next year we'll split up the year to do all of the issues for the universe I'm working on. Christian's in the chat. Hey, good to see you, man. He says, I'm watching at work. Don't tell anyone. Well, hey, you just told I told the internet, so shame on me. But yeah, I'll keep it on the QT. Amar also says, I think for artists to write for what you're working on. I agree. Well, I think that lack of reference is definitely something that will stop me from having a piece come out well. But I think that what would be considered artist or writer's block, the lack of reference is for the actual visual image that you're making in terms of, why is this piece not coming out well? In terms of the writer's block, it's lack of direction. You're not sure where you want your story to go next, and that's part of the visual storytelling. I think that they're kind of two separate things. And for me, the lack of direction is that I try not to necessarily, if I don't have a direction, I'm not sure where I want to go next, I don't necessarily try to force a direction. I just explore whatever direction comes to mind, and I try to think, well, what's the next idea? And explore that and explore that. So it's almost like all of these different versions of the same shot. To me, it's like Into the Spider-Verse. Nails are me exploring the multiverse until I find the combination of versions, the combination of realities that create the seamless, hopefully entertaining story that I'm trying to work out. Christian also says, thumbnails are my everything in comics. Amar says, my character Snow is like Superman Prime. That's dope. Iron Rocks is also giving everyone a reminder to don't forget to hit that like button, and I appreciate that, definitely. If you like these videos, hit the like button, hit the share button, repost on Twitter, repost on Facebook, on whatever social media you guys are on. Definitely, please share the stream. It helps me when you guys get the word out. Vince also says sometimes block is the gap between knowing what to do and how to do it. Good point. You know the plot, but the mechanics of how to draw it or write it is harder to nail down. Yes, that's a great point, Vince. Because it's like driving in LA. You know you want to get from the Valley to the Staples Center, but you want to take the 405, you want to take the 101, you want to drive over to the 2 and cut down through Glendale. There's a lot of different ways to get over there. And each one has its upsides and downsides. Now I've been talking so much, I kind of need to mentally reboot and get back into what I was doing story-wise. So where I was, very simple thing. I've got a demon laying in the foreground, and he's going to have a sword in his chest. In theory, one of the other angels was fighting this demon and took him out. Where that angel is and why he left his sword there, who knows? Maybe he got shot or blown up by another demon. But anyway, he's gonna be having a sword sticking out of his chest that Michael grabs as he walks by. Now, what this scene might need I'm actually now, this is one of those things where as I'm drawing, I'm thinking. And what I'm thinking is that I probably, because I've been spending a lot of time showing angels running and shooting and not necessarily showing, it's not that I want to put the focus on the demons, it's more sort of for context. Maybe I need to have, a shot of more of the hybrid demons and the demons that have rebelled and joined Lucifer's side, the angels that have joined Lucifer's side, the rebels. Maybe show them on the attack and show them fighting. And then that way when Michael walks in and starts shooting at them, it just sort of changes the pacing a little bit. I'm gonna look at the chat in a second, but I'm very enjoying just drawing this little guy here with his torso and his big old chest wound, his hands. What drew me in and made me go silent was drawing the foreshortening of this arm, because Again, it's a thumbnail. It's not like it needs to be drawn well. But I did want to get that sense of overlap of the form. So this might actually be something that, let's say, and like I said, I very much like this diagram that I'm drawing right here is one of probably several that I will draw over the course of working out this page. Let's say that Michael is going to be, let's say that I am going to start with focusing on demons attacking or rebels attacking. This shot in the middle with Michael might be sort of a hero shot in the middle of the sequence. So let's say this demon that I just drew here, maybe he is in the foreground this way. We've got Michael in the background. You know, and I can bring the camera down closer to the page so you guys can see this more clearly. I am curious whether you prefer this wider shot where you can see more of the page, or whether what I'm drawing at this moment is so tiny that you're like, I can't even tell what the, I mean, with thumbnails, I have to put notes for a lot of these because you can't tell what the hell I'm drawing. But you tell me whether the range, the scale that you're looking at now is works for you guys in terms of watching me draw, or whether you saying, or whether you want me to get the camera really close to the thumbnails. By the way, time flies. We are already at 11:50, and like I said, I still haven't even. I spent most of the time talking. All I've really drawn was just, you know, these couple of sketches here. I've barely worked through the thumbnails for this page. But you know what, though? That's the difference. I think the only way I could really get an entire page thumbnailed would be if I wasn't reading the chat at all and just focusing. And I like the interaction of talking with you guys as I'm going. Speaking of which, let me come back to the chat. And since we're down to, we're at 11:50 already, if you guys have questions before we wrap up, be sure now's a good time to get them in. Let's see here. Amar says to Vince that that is the same thing as not having a reference or distraction. That's why I'm making all of my characters in 3D, including the backgrounds. There will be no blocks. It's like having the 3D sets and the characters. The only thing left is posing out all the shots to match your story, that incorporates your style and drawovers. Vince says, not always. Sometimes the individual moves aren't simply a matter of reference. Sometimes it's a matter of getting the pieces to fit in the way that suits your taste. Amar says, I choose 3 or 4 phases for the angels in my universe: celestial, fallen, physical, alien form, and demon form. Which, you know, it's funny. I didn't even think about that. The only difference is that I was thinking in terms of seraphim. I was going to make them the big cat-like angels that were demons, like that little baby demon that Raphael transformed, and it turned into like a flaming cat head with wings. That I was going to make those the seraphim. So they were almost like six-winged cat angels that look like, well, 6-winged lions, basically. 6-winged lions with multiple eyes. That's what I was going to make the seraphim in this version. And you'll see them. They show up in this final battle. But other than that, I didn't want to get too wrapped up in which characters are fit into what part of the heavenly host and it being biblically accurate. To be honest, none of that, I don't give a shit about any of that. It's not important to my story. It doesn't mean that you guys who are writing stories are using angels, which I feel like that's part of the reason why some of you guys are drawn to this channel, is because angels are the main characters in my story, and I've got angels and demons. You're also doing stories of that. If you're making that, you know, the actual mythology, to make it accurate, if that's important to your story, go with God, literally. For me, none of that's really important. It's just not important to my story. I'm not saying it is unimportant in the cosmic sense. It just doesn't matter to me. Ion Rock says, I was terrified of going digital until a new option presented itself. I think Jeremy did a whole video on going digital or the choice of. Yes, I did. I'll try to find that video and post the link in the description for this live stream when we're done. Vince says, for example, you can plot a fight, but it will be staged. I believe it's Wuxa style, Jackie Chan style, something that's minimalist. That's not a lack of reference, but it's having too many options and solutions. Amar says, for me, it is because I visualize the story already in my head. The text is just a thing to support the visual story. That's why, for me, the 3D version would cut. Lego Studios is in the chat. How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Amar says to Vince, that's why for me 3D version would speed up my time by 1200%. Vince said, Vince, as I said, it's a matter of taste. Blocks fit the nature of the artist. Lego Studio says, I'm a writer, not an artist. No, Lego Studios, I'm not sure. You may have come in later in the conversation. I'm not sure how much of it how long you've been on the stream. We were talking earlier about visual. The question was, what do I do? Do I ever get story blocks story-wise? And then we got into a conversation about how I work through it and how the reason why I do so many pages of thumbnails is because I'm working out all the different iterations and variations of a story. And for me, that's not knowing exactly, kind of as Vince said, not necessarily knowing what you want to happen, but not necessarily how you want to stage it. For me, that's my version of writer's block, and the thumbnails are me just working out all the different variations of those staging. But whereas Amar's version of working through that is he already knows what he wants story-wise, and he's actually telling a story with 3D characters, 3D environments, 3D sets, so that for him, the posing is really just the simplest part, and that's what makes it quicker for him. He's not worried about working out all these iterations like I am. He's got the characters, and he just positions them and goes on with the story. And again, that's where we got to the part at the end of like whether it's writer's block or artist block. It's different processes for different people, whether you're an artist or a writer. But this was a writer's block conversation that was probably more wrapped around visual storytelling. So it's not necessarily that it doesn't apply to writers in terms of writer's block, but it's sort of the artist equivalent of writer's block. And that's why we've also been talking about reference, use of reference, lack of reference, having too much reference and too many options. And I think that for all the people that are watching, there's probably just as many people who having too much reference and too many options is as much a problem as not having enough reference and having no options. That's where it comes down to different strokes for different folks. And I like to always say that what I'm sharing is what's working for me, but I always believe that everyone has to experiment, and you kind of have to build your own recipe. You got to figure out how you're going to tell your stories, whether you're a writer in prose. Like Amar also says, everyone is an artist, everyone is a writer. Yes, writing is an art. Everyone has to figure out their own way to work out these problems and these challenges. Sharing the process of how I'm doing it, or having other people sharing their process with you, can be very, very helpful. Can help you, give you ideas of how to work those problems, or you may see something that someone else did, someone else's solution to a writing or a visual block, and say, oh, this doesn't work for me, but I can adapt it or change it. I also see in a little more comments in the chat. That's where when Lego Studio says I'm a writer, not an artist. Amar says you are an artist. I have a video that I'm writing to that responds to that myth. You know what? He's got a YouTube channel. Amar's got a YouTube channel with lots of videos on there. Definitely click on his link and go check his channel as well, because he's sharing, much like I do with my creative process, he's sharing his process as well. And I know from videos I've looked at, you're doing a lot of the writing process as well. So for people that are writers and are interested in looking at how a writer is carving up some of these visual and storytelling challenges, it's worth checking out the approach. Ion Rock says, I am currently in the middle of a years-long block. I'm hoping the excitement of going digital can overcome it. You know, it's if whatever gets you creating is what you should do. I can't tell you what, because I'm not sure what caused the block, so I can't necessarily tell you how to stop the block. My whole answer is find the thing that you enjoy doing and do that. That's really what it comes down to for me. Um, Amar also says you're whatever you want to be. The only thing that blocks ourselves mentally from wherever we want to be. We are the only thing that blocks ourselves mentally from whatever we want to do. And Iron Rock says, I'm afraid that I will just flop. Well, let me tell you, this is an interesting idea. The idea of flopping, of failing. More often than not, people are afraid that the one option is everyone's going to love what you did and be awesome and people are going to cheer you, or they're afraid everyone's going to say, you're garbage, you have no talent. Why did you even pick up a stylus or a pencil or a brush in the first place? Go away, no one loves your work. The sad truth is what is most likely to happen is silence. It's nothing. No one reacts one way or the other. That is, as opposed to a full flame out, you may get some nice comments, you may get a little criticism. More often than not, what happens is people just don't care one way or the other. So from that standpoint, I try to just make what I want to make. I try to draw like no one's watching. Yeah, a bunch of you guys are here watching me right now on the internet drawing. And you guys are supportive. That's the thing. I'm fine with that. Well, because I think I'm just as hard on my drawing as any of you would be. Particularly with thumbnails, these aren't meant to be good drawings anyway. But no, most of the time, the hardest thing is getting someone to care about what you're doing. So by that standpoint, just make what you want to make. Because if no one is going to care, then just make something and put it out in the universe, and hopefully it will find a home. That's the main thing, is finding an audience for your work, finding people who genuinely do want to read what you're doing, that are excited by it, do find it interesting, and want to engage with you and talk about what you do and don't do. That's the hardest thing. But if you're impeding yourself because you're afraid, I mean, hey, I just made that was a clip, a highlight from last week's live stream talking about how fear and anxiety almost destroyed things I was passionate about. In my case, it was athletics. But, if you let those things destroy your creative drive, then you've already lost. Yeah, you might flop. So what? Go ahead and, yes, going back to the chat, Amar right afterwards says, all successful people say fail hard and fail fast. Iron Rock says void, LOL. Amar, okay. Iron Rocks, you need to subscribe to Amar's channel and watch the next time that he's on there and talk to him on his streams. Because this conversation needs to continue. Because I've told you as much as I can about encouraging you. You need to hear his words of encouragement. Because you're gonna fail. In fact, failure is the only road to success. And I think that's the reason why most people don't try, is to say, well, if I try, I might fail. Yeah, you're gonna fail. I need to go and find the first version of Morningstar to show you guys, because I have a version of Morningstar that I drew when I was in college. In the 90s, I drew the first version of Morningstar. So almost 20 years later, I'm wrapping up the story that I finally started putting out there. But I need to dig that out, and I probably won't do it next week or the week after, but at some point, I'm going to go find those early pages, and I'm going to bring those out for you guys to see. So we are at an hour, a little over that. It's a little bit past noon. So I think that we're going to wrap it up here, mainly because I'm talked out. I've got a bunch of other crap I need to do, and if I keep drawing, I won't necessarily get as much. If I keep talking, I won't necessarily get as much drawing done as I'd like. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Some last words from Amar. He said, "Because you can overcome failure too much. Because you can overcome failure too much. Because you can overcome failure too much successful, too much praise too early. You can get a false sense of self. Do it for yourself, and don't worry about if other people don't like it." I keep coming up with ideas, and as long as I have breath in my body, I will put put out these ideas. I wish I had this enthusiasm 20 or 30 years ago. Don't wait as long as I did. Preach it. You're saying it way better than I ever could. That's why I want to share your words. Guys, seriously, check out Amar's stream. He's putting out some great videos. And it's interesting to get the look at the behind the scenes process of another creator coming from a different angle, using 3D and coming from a whole different storytelling approach. Like I said, take a little bit from this writer and artist, take a little bit from this storyteller, take a little bit from this and that, and learn how to develop your own ideas and your own processes. And for me, I just like seeing how other people are making stuff. So, on that note, Amar says, thanks for the stream. Pedro's in the chat. Thanks for stopping by. Says thank you as well. All right. Oh, I see. My problem. I was looking at my instead of looking at the camera, I was looking at my my tablet. So, guys, if you enjoy these videos, if you'd like to support this channel, if you'd like to get a bonus live stream per month, as well as bonus blog posts. Oh, and I'm actually running Morningstar as a webcomic on my Patreon. And I'm going to start running it in my newsletter as well, but the newsletter is going to get a piece of like 5 pages every month, whereas I'm posting Morningstar 5 pages a week on my Patreon. So you can also read Morningstar as a webcomic on my Patreon. You can also read it at a slower rate on my newsletter. So the link to the newsletter is also in the descriptions. But all of that, you can get that early access at patreon.com/GERIMI. If you'd like to read PDF previews of my comic, go to comics.jeremy.net. And if you'd like to buy physical copies or buy digitally on Kindle or Comixology, you can go to amazon.jeremy.net. Guys, thank you so much for spending time with me this weekend. Thank you for all the great comments, all the great feedback on the stream. I really appreciate you guys spending time with me. I appreciate your support and your interaction. That's it for now. Everyone go have a great weekend. That's it for now. Go be creative.